Hey everybody, Tony D with a sort of capper to the debate. So I took a few minutes to think about it, and I just sort of wanted to give you my final thoughts on the debate, just in a short video here. And this is also for the BitChute guys. If I haven't figured out how to move my live streams from YouTube to BitChute, if anybody in the comments section can give me a clue or a link or something, that would be really helpful. Anywho, the live stream of the debate went pretty well. I couldn't show the debate. I watched it on my phone off camera, and then I let the sound play so you can hear me listening to it, and then you can kind of follow along. But I thought Trump did pretty damn good. I thought he was pretty exceptional and focused this time. I think the muting or the threat of muting helped focus him a lot. He of course started to push his luck almost, immediately, and he pushed, and he, so it was better that he had more constraints so he could push the envelope a little. And Welker, generally let things go a little bit. Somebody would really have to break down the comparisons at this point because it was pretty close. But even Trump complimented her and said, yeah, I think you're doing a pretty good job. So I think it was pretty fair. But, I'm sure somebody on the internet will crunch the numbers and give us like a total time thing, like a timestamp on every single moment. But Trump had all the big moments. I mean, Biden, he really didn't score any significant hits that I remember. Trump hammered him with laptop stuff. He didn't go into the crack or the underage girls on Hunter's laptop, but he did go into, he hammered him on the Moscow deal where they accepted money from Russia, which is just, that just makes him look so bad. Makes Biden look so hypocritical. And everybody's going to be Googling that and looking it up. And all Biden could say was, oh, that's not true. That's not true. And he just kept smiling and laughing and dismissing it. There's a lot on that laptop, man. He mentioned China. He mentioned his brother. He mentioned Hunter. He mentioned Iraq, which was really Joe Biden's brother's deal. Very much like the character on Arrested Development. Same sort of deal where he had a deal to build houses in Iraq. What else? He mentioned China. He mentioned Ukraine, of course. Ukraine came up quite a bit, and they argued back and forth. And Biden is an idiot for mentioning that and going down that path, because that video is everywhere. The video of Biden bragging about how he blackmailed the president of the Ukraine. Google it. You can see it yourself. It's bad. It's exactly what they accused Trump of, only like Biden did it and no one cares. No one in the media cares. No one in Washington seems to care other than Trump and a handful of guys. If anybody should be going to jail for the Ukraine shenanigans, 100% it should be Joe Biden. I mean, he's admitted on tape that he blackmailed the president of the Ukraine. Biden was basically just playing the greatest hits of the left with regard to Trump. Oh, you entertain thugs, and that's how, that's how you got, you ignore our allies and entertain thugs, and that's why you're in with Putin and Kim Jong-un, and, it's just like, that's it? That's the best you got, Joe? And it was a weak sauce at this point, because Trump's been battered with that for years, and it's, at this point, no one cares. We've heard it all before. It doesn't even make any sense. The only thing, I was surprised, they got in a race, but Biden forgot to bring up the Charlottesville thing, the Charlottesville quote. So that was good. He didn't even bring it up, probably because he did that in the first debate and it didn't really do anything. I think Trump's got major pointage from this debate. He hammered Biden early with the laptop stuff because I think people are generally going to tune out after a while. They talked about COVID way too long. Welker stayed on COVID. it just was way too long. And it's the same damn argument. Oh, we would have done better. Trump let all these people die. We would have done better, even though they were predicting millions, and he got it down to a certain amount. Even though we criticized them for closing down travel to China, somehow we would have done better. Like, it's really weak argument. Like, there's all kinds of arguments to be made in the coronavirus. And keep in mind, the media was screaming to pull Trump's press conferences. Biden repeated the thing about bleach, which is, again, is weak sauce. That's not what Trump said. And certainly he didn't think, you know, he also talked about that light treatment, the ultraviolet light treatment, which, by the way, Twitter took off its platform. There was an actual company, and they're building like a flexible tube that goes down into your esophagus and irradiates, I guess it goes into your lungs and irradiates your lungs with ultraviolet light, and it's able to kill viruses. And it would kill viruses like the beer virus. So, and Twitter just took that off. And Trump must have saw it on his Twitter feed, and that's why he mentioned it that day. And this was a while ago. But, you know, none of that's going to come up. You know, and then Biden was like, you know, doing the left's thing about the climate. Oh, we got to save the planet. Oh, we're all going to die if we don't do this. And, you know, again, like, the United States got its pollution down to the point where we only contribute about 1 or 2% to global warming. China is pouring pollution into the atmosphere. India is dumping stuff in their rivers. You're not going to be able to do much with them. They can't, first off, they can't get to where we are. They're not first world countries like we are. And you certainly don't want China to get to where we are. They would need all our technology to do so. Maybe you could help India, but India's massive population is a huge problem. They have massive poverty in India. And there's a lot of problems. And you got to have factories somewhere. So this was the problem with outsourcing all our factories all around the world. We took the pollution that we had and we got rid of it, but we just put it in other countries. So what we need to do is we need to bring some of those factories back, because in our countries, those factories, although they will pollute less than in China or, you know, India. Much less than China. India, we'd probably be comparable, but, you know, so we'll have some pollution, but because we run it like with the top technology, and we're in America, so we don't want anything poisoned, you know, it'll be a very reasonable amount of pollution. And because that isn't in China, that means China's carbon footprint will go down significantly, but ours will go up a little bit, and that's a fair exchange. And that's about the best we could do for a country like China without forcibly changing their regime, which we can't do realistically anytime soon. We also need the jobs, and we also need to make certain things here. Like, remember, with the beer virus, we have to start making the basics, the aspirins, the PPE, all that stuff. All that stuff, that didn't get talked about, but everything else did. You know, who built the cages, Joe? That was a big line. Who built the cages, Joe? Now, if this was a fair assessment in the media, that would be the headline tomorrow. That would be the headline in the New York Post and everywhere else. Who built the cages, Joe? Like with Trump going, who built the cages, Joe? And Biden looking pained. Biden looked weak, tired, out of breath at points. Very little energy. A couple of times he piped up, but he wasn't significant. And he kept smiling uncomfortably whenever he got called out on various corruption things from the laptop. He kept saying, I've never taken a dime from foreign entities, anything like that. Yeah, you funnel the money through your son. You never take a dime. You take money from your son, who gets it from foreign entities and gives it to you. Because that's the way the money washes. So we all know the deal, Joe. Yeah, you weren't fooling anybody in this debate, but, you know, for the Democrats, Joe is the best they got, I guess. I mean, I think Buttigieg would have done better. he would have been more energetic. I think people who are really on the fence would have been more likely to vote for a Buttigieg simply because he was an unknown entity for the most part. You know, Trump would have trashed him. Trump would have said, you're a two-bit mayor from a two-bit town. You don't know how to run anything. But, you know, Buttigieg had the energy to come back from that. Joe smiling uncomfortably and just saying, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. There's a lot of denials in that, Joe. A lot of denials. And his plan, first off, outright lie that he's not going to ban fracking. I mean, there's all kinds of video. And he even dared Trump to put it on his website. It'll be on his website tomorrow, Joe. It'll be all over Twitter tomorrow. It's already on Twitter. I've seen tons of montages of Joe saying, we're going to get rid of fracking. And, you know, it's bad. He really lied tonight on that score. Everything about energy, Joe lied. He's go, we're going to get to a zero carbon footprint. First off, I don't believe you're even going to do it. Second off, you're talking 2050 to get down from 1 or 2% to zero. You know, it's an insignificant amount, and you're talking about trashing the entire economy just to get there, just to get to a number. Again, Democrats don't understand economics, and Joe proved it tonight. He's a big proponent of the minimum wage, which doesn't work. He's a big proponent of, you know, the zero carbon thing and alternative energies. They're not all ready yet. You know, some are, some aren't. They say the carbon footprint of pulling these rare elements out of the ground to make the electric vehicles cost, you know, more of a carbon footprint than the amount they save by being a car with no emissions. So what's the point? You know, there's a balance here. There's a slow, and Joe was like, oh, there's going to be a slow transition away from fossil fuels. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. You're not, either you won't make it slow or you're just lying. Oh, it's going to be slow. 2050, yeah. And if you somehow stayed in office 8 years, nothing would happen. You'd just forget about it. And we all know you would. So by the end of it, I mean, everybody was kind of running out of gas, but Trump was still pretty solid. There wasn't any major points towards the end. I mean, they ended on climate change, probably the most boring issue of the campaign. You know, no one talked about Antifa. No one talked about the riots, really. It was more on the first debate. I would have liked to have seen a little more than that. I certainly would have liked to have heard Trump tout his Middle East things, and you'd think Welker would at least mention them or throw a question at Biden that way. No, not a chance. So, I mean, while I don't think Welker was particularly biased, I still say she was biased. If she was a fair reporter, she would have drilled Biden on that. Like, well, what about all these peace deals in the Middle East? You know, what are you going to continue these peace deals in the Middle East? Like, that would have thrown Biden for a loop. Because first off, he would have been completely unprepared for it, because I'm sure he got all the questions ahead of time. You know, even so, Biden was weak on it. So, advantage Trump, definitely a win for Trump. I think it was a strong win for Trump, solid. You know, so I look forward to seeing if he, you know, gets any credit for it whatsoever. I think the media is going to be hard pressed to say that Biden won this. But it's going to be very interesting tomorrow. So watch the skies. You know, as always, smash like and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow.